Gentlemen, any ladies? No.
Where have you seen Jacob Park make the most progressions?
Well, I think with Jacob and with all of our quarterbacks, knowing where to put your eyes all the time, consistently, is what can help them then go execute a play, if it's a pass play, obviously. And I think Jacob, who didn't have the benefit of spring ball a year ago, didn't even have the benefit in the beginning of a training camp, is showing so many signs of carryover from the fall, an understanding of any new concepts, if there are any, or just kind of a reaffirmation of what the global part of the offense is. And he's been doing a really good job.
Coach Campbell said that he's got to be a CEO kind of the offense this year. How have you seen his kind of leadership develop since he got here?
He loves football, and he takes great pride in being as good a quarterback as he can be. And he is, like with all players, especially if they're new in a program, and I would say he's still new in a program. He's not been here for a full calendar year as a student. He takes great ownership in the unit that he's with, and in the execution of the play and with his teammates.
What was it about him that made you guys want to play him so early and so raw? Like you said, he hadn't even been here an entire calendar year, and you guys threw him into the mix.
Well, really not much early. If you go back, I don't believe he played at all in the first game.
No.
Played a little bit in the second game, and then played more in the third game. And so he'd been with us and practicing for probably about a month. I think his best play started coming, October and beyond, and then clearly in the latter third of the season is when he became the starter. But he's a dynamic passer. He's really a dynamic passer, and he's got a temperament that is aggressive as a passer, and those are good qualities. It's knowing. I don't know anything about stock car racing, but it's knowing when you got to keep your foot on the gas pedal. Who here knows something about NASCAR racing? It's got to be
Chris.
somebody. I mean, there's times you've got to mash the gas pedal.
Yeah.
And then there's other times if you're going around a curve, you probably can't.
Slower is faster.
Slow. Ooh, rubbing is racing. Did I get that right? But for quarterbacking, it's in the learning of when do I mash it and when do I go slower to go faster. And for all quarterbacks, not just Jacob, but for all quarterbacks. And I think he is doing a better job of that. If for nothing else, he just knows more about the offense. He knows more about the concepts of defense that we face, because the picture changes on a weekly basis. And it takes a year in any conference to start to get a flavor of what are the different things we're going to face, and how do things carry over from one opponent to the next, and how does the next opponent drastically differ from the previous. And until you get that library full of stuff, you're constantly learning. So we're kind of going through it for the second time, or he is, and that makes a big difference.
What have you seen from Zeb?
We've manufactured plays for Zeb. All right, not plays. We haven't manufactured plays for Zeb. We've manufactured practice opportunities for Zeb because of his limitation. So he really gets to work in individual. He gets to work in 7-on-7. We've got to kind of build in when we can force him to get those reps in 7-on-7, knowing he's not going to get any team reps. And he again is a young player who missed an entire season's worth of work. You know what I mean? So, in many ways, he is a younger player than Jacob. It's very promising. Don't get me wrong. He's got talent. He's just like anybody else who's had surgery. We can go as fast as his work in the training room and the trainer's recommendations allow him to go.
Sounds like he's a pretty smart football player.
He's very much, he's a lot like Jacob in that it's he'll mash it, and it's the same thing for him. It's going to be in the learning of when not to mash it, when to take, and when not to force. If that makes any sense.
This might be impossible to answer right now, but let's say it's a week before the season. Jacob injures his ankle. Everybody else is available. Would Lanning be your backup quarterback, or would Zeb be?
I don't know. We got to remember Kyle Kempt, who is taking a tremendous number of snaps, and I'm not saying more so than he normally would have. He has earned the right to take the snaps with the ones, with the twos. He has earned that right, and has a really fertile football mind. There's no doubt about that, and he's the best that he's ever been for us. In my opinion, he's the best he's ever been, and that's a good thing, because you never know when somebody gets hurt. What would be the picture with Joel? Joel is focusing on our team right now on defense, and probably because of his intelligence, experience, will, and competitiveness, could on a moment's notice return. Now it falls upon us. What can we really ask him to do in a game plan without the same kind of practice that he would have had in previous years? And does that become a two quarterback situation like we did use, in October and November, where somebody else can handle some and he handles some, but he's better equipped to be able to do that probably than he was during the season. Mentally he'd be better equipped to know, and for us to know, here's the strengths, here's what we can do, here's how he helps us. But that's a hypothetical that
Yeah,
I hope we
exactly.
don't have to face.
How was that for you, Coach?